Welcome to the Accounting Arc Podcast, where analysis, reaction, and comedy collide to tackle the big topics from the world of accounting and beyond. Join our trio of transformation agents as they discuss the hottest topics in and out of the profession, from breaking down industry trends, to reacting to everyday events, to uncovering the hidden humor in numbers. With wisdom, insight, and a dash of levity, they're proving that accounting isn't just about the numbers. It's about life. Because after all, accounting is in everything. The Accounting Arc Podcast starts now.
Welcome back to another episode of ARC. You have Byron and I here today talking about the value of relationships. And I think, this is a topic that's very important and yes, is stressed in certain instances, but I feel like it's not talked about enough as to how that influences like early career through later career and all that it does to actually have strong relationships with other people. So I thought it was a topic we could tackle together. What do you think?
I think it's great. I mean, I think about the highlight of our friendship and like how it has created all types of fun and opportunities and just definitely been a highlight of my professional career having you
Mine too.
part of the posse. Yeah, so it's I love this topic. I think it's really important, and it's definitely one of those things that I don't think is really like you don't learn it in college. There's no course on building relationships. There's no you don't get a lot of guidance or training around this stuff. It's something that I don't know, maybe you learn kind of growing up, and but it should be talked about.
Yeah, well, and I think like there's a transition that happens, right? Like in school when you're a kid, like as you get into college, relationships are really, friendships that you're building without, any commonality, right? Like your commonality could be school or it could be a sport or it could be like a favorite type of TV show or, like whatever that is, you kind of put in a place with those kids. And so then you form relationships and you form friendships. And generally it's like, a special interest, right? It's not just like
Right.
random. And then you get into the workplace and it's like you're stuck in a room with a bunch of accountants if this is the profession that you choose. And many of them will not share your personal interests, right? Like I'm an avid skier. There's a very small group of accountants that are also avid skiers because most accountants are pretty risk averse. And so it's like, okay, cool, right? That's fine. And so sometimes it can be hard to find those things that you have in common beyond just the workplace. And that makes it more difficult to forge relationships. And I can tell you, like, as an early professional for me, like, generally speaking, I like everybody. I am happy to converse with everybody. I also get really bored very easily. And if people, like, don't have topics that are interesting or new ideas or creative thinking, sometimes I just walk away, which is really a terrible habit. It absolutely is. But it is something, like, I have done since I was a child, and nobody taught me that that was rude until I was an adult, and they were like, "Hey, Liz, that's kind of rude." So I had to learn that the hard way. But I didn't really think when I was a baby professional, and granted, I started at like 19, so I was very young in public accounting. I didn't really think building strong relationships with the people I was working with was that important. Like working relationships, absolutely. Like learning how they worked, understanding how to, meet their expectations, making sure that I was delivering a work product they were happy with. All of that was very important to me. But understanding who they were as a person was less important. And they were also at very different life stages, right? Like I'm a 19-year-old kid and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm starting in public accounting. And most of the people I was working with were non-traditional students. So like they were 24, 25. Some of them had families already. Most of them were married. Like it was a very different life stage. And so, when I'm like, hey, let's go out, they're like, no, I got to get home. Like what? So it's just, I never built that at my first career in the same way. Like, and I think in retrospect, had I understood the importance of that, I would have spent more time building those relationships.
Yeah, that's really interesting because as you kind of described that, I was trying to think back to early in my career to like see if there was like any type of like inflection point or like moment. And for me, I don't know that there was. Like I think for me, I've just always been like this person who's curious about other people and asking a lot of questions to learn about people and from the early days of starting my career I can remember just really getting to know everybody I worked with, every client that I worked with. Like I can remember as a young staff accountant, I got invited to weddings, I got invited to funerals, like like things that if you had like written a textbook of like how to be an accountant, like all these things were off the playbook. Like they
Mm-hmm.
right, like it was stuff that was the relationship building aspect of things. And for me, that's just always been kind of my approach to existing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of funny because it's I've gotten so much benefit from it. Like I could write a book of here's all the reasons to invest in
Mm-hmm.
caring about other people, right?
Yep.
And at the end of the day, that's not why I do it, but it has really like absolutely paid dividends, just taking interest in other
Yeah.
people. I was having a conversation with somebody recently, because I tend to call like everybody a friend. And
Mm-hmm.
they're like, that person's really not your friend. That's just like your like professional colleague. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, but they're my friend, right? Like
Right.
they're my friend. I know
Right.
about
Right.
them. Like I know
I'll
about
be
their
invited into
family.
their sandbox, right?
That's right.
Like,
Yeah, like they're my friend too.
I can share my toy truck.
That's right. So there is so much value. I mean, in fact, just recently, my oldest daughter, so she's mid 20s and early in her career as a professional engineer, and she just changed jobs recently. And one of the reasons was the work experience, the work life, like nobody took interest. Like there
Mm-hmm.
was no relationships there. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was really like show up, get your work done,
And leave.
and that was it. And
Yeah.
she enjoyed the firm, but there was absolutely no vested interest in who she was as a
Mm-hmm.
human and building those relationships. So she left
Yeah.
and she took her talent to another firm, hoping that,
Yeah.
she'll get that level of interest there. It's a big
Yeah.
miss.
No, and I totally get that. And so, I think I have always like, I love community. I love people. I have very strong friendships in my personal life. And I had this belief system that showing up in a corporate setting meant like productivity speaks for itself. Like
Right.
you just be extremely good at your job. And that's what you're there to do. Like you're not there to make friends. You're there to be good at your job. And that's not the case. Like you are there to make friends and be good at your job. And people are much more patient with you if they like you. Right. And so I learned this the hard way. I was 20 years old. I turned in a complex C Corp tax return to the manager to review. And the manager at the time found me very threatening. And I got this feedback through the HR person. And I was
Oh,
like, okay, so I'm asking the HR person, I was like, hey, so like, uh, what does that mean? And she was like, it means that like you need to work on how you're talking to people because you are condescending and making them feel dumb. And my argument was like, I can't make other people feel dumb. Like that's on them. Like if they feel dumb,
right.
they feel dumb, right? Like that is not me. That is their own
You have no
self
control
issues,
over
right?
that
Like,
emotion for them.
yeah, which
Yeah,
is also true. And I am abrupt. I say facts very factually,
sure.
and assume that anybody that is above me professionally should know more than me, right? Like that's what we should assume, right? And so I had approached this manager in a way that was like not received well. And so, I like took that feedback and sat with it for a minute and was like, okay, so part of this is ego, right? Like this is partially
That's right.
not my fault, but part of it is that like I am doing something to trigger those ego issues or those, self-confidence issues or something else. What am I doing that is triggering them? And so I sat down at my desk and I remember I was like completely devastated because I thought I had like killed it on this project. I thought I was going to get like, lots of like, hey, good job, pats on the back. But the interaction was he gave me review points that were factually wrong. I had already done the research and he was not right. And I told him that in my response instead of being like, nice about it and being like, here's the research that I did. I was like, this is wrong. Look at code section, whatever, right? And there's a lot of nuance. So
Sure.
I invited him out to lunch. And I was like, okay, I need to understand. And I also need to apologize. So I sent him a really nice email that was like, hey, really sorry that came off the wrong way. Like, that was never my intention. Can we please go out to lunch and like talk about this face to face? Like, I don't like third party feedback. Like, I would rather have it directly. And also, like, I'm not easily offended. So like you can tell me that I'm rude and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sorry I was rude. Like that's like I'm not gonna get upset about it and like defend myself, right? And so we went to lunch and I started the conversation just asking about his family. And he had two little kids, like two toddlers. So he spent 45 minutes showing me pictures of his toddlers and telling me like about all the cool stuff that they did together and all their interests. And it turns out this guy was a skateboarder and like really good at it, like almost X Games level skateboarder. And I was like, dude, like that's so cool. Like, why'd you stop? And he's like, oh, I broke myself a few too many times and then decided to get married and have kids. So like, this is where we're at in life. And, so then we shared stories about like breaking ourselves doing extreme sports. And then he liked me and he realized I was also a human and also a person. And so we're like wrapping up lunch. And I was like, look, man, like, I am sorry I offended you. That was absolutely not my intention. Like, it won't happen again. Like, if you need me to do this in a different way, I will. Like, tell me what you need to, like, be happy with my work and I'll do it. And also, so, like, I respect the shit out of you. Like, I think you're a great manager. Like, I love working with you. I don't want this to interrupt anything moving forward. And from that day forward, we had incredible working relationship.
Yeah.
Like he never questioned if my intention was pure or if I was trying to challenge him or if I was trying to be a dick. Like not once after that did he challenge like anything or did he take me personally from the future? Because he realized like I am also a human. I am a very direct human. I grew up in New York. Like he grew up on the West Coast. Like also very different cultures.
Very different cultures. That's right.
So like there were different things at play. But that was the first time in my career, and I was like 20 years old when I realized like, oh, like I need to show my humanity at work to actually be received as a human and build those relationships and see like what happens from there. Because it's not just about the work product and the productivity.
Yeah.
And that was a hard lesson to learn. I wish somebody would have told me that, right?
But what an awesome like soft landing you had to learn that lesson, right? Like I mean, you could imagine if he had not been receptive to that conversation and it not gone well, how that could have like framed your perception of these things going forward. Fortunately you had somebody who was open to that conversation and made that connection.
Absolutely.
And like that's awesome. I mean, it really reminds me of all the stuff that John Garrett talks about with
What's your and?
What's your and? Yeah. Right. It's like
and the Green Apple podcast. Like he does a great job talking about what makes you special. Absolutely.
That's it. And he's all about like if you're sharing like the things that interest you, so frequently we have these common things that we take interest in each other. And once like you have that, the working relationship can be so much more productive because you can have that conversation and just say like, Liz, quit being a dick. And that's so much better received when it's from somebody that you have that connection with.
Yeah. And also like, I know sometimes I come across like a dick, like unintentionally. And it honestly is a combination of like, I have a very factual, logical brain. I grew up in New York. Like this is what I was expected to do in my family, right? Is to like be very blunt and direct, which is not most of our country. But, I think that you're right. Like it was that I had a good receptive human that was willing to like take a step back and also coach me through some
That's
of
right.
that stuff in the future, and took like a lot of time with me post that to help me like navigate other interpersonal things and other differences that came across. And I, for whatever reason, had believed like you show up at work, you put on your work mask and you do the work. Like that's it, right? But I think in modern days, like because that was ancient times, right? There's a lot of talk about like vulnerability at work, and like all the work that Brene Brown has done to open up
Yeah.
vulnerability in the workplace and study it and really understand what that does to interpersonal relationships, as well as what that does to like productivity. And of course, like people are better when they feel like they're in a community. And so building those relationships matters. So I would say day one, like try to understand we're all humans, like build that community, seek that community, find the people, like find some common interest. Like even if you work with a bunch of accounting duds, like you got to have something in common. Like maybe you all love crazy formulas in Excel, like bond over that. Maybe you all love
Right.
beer. I don't know, like pick a thing.
Yeah, I mean, pick a thing. There's so many things, and just sharing it, you just don't know. I always talk to different people about this like idea of like you tend to find things when you were looking for them,
Mhm.
there's plenty of people who can feel like, oh, I'm just misunderstood, nobody knows me, like, and the question is like, what are you sharing? Like, are you actually going out there and having those conversations with people and, looking for connection? A lot of
Yeah.
times people are very closed to looking for connection or think
Hmm.
it's inappropriate to talk about their bug collection at the office or, their love of doing magic,
Hmm.
like, but there's so many things that you can share about yourself that just create those opportunities. And, something when we were kind of prepping for this, you mentioned like, I think there's definitely been those moments throughout my now very long career where you see people in roles or positions where technically they're probably not qualified for the role that they are in.
Hmm.
They're batting a little bit out of their weight class, but they tend to be really good at the human game.
Hmm.
Playing the human game and building relationships, and that weighs heavily in how you do evolve in your career because that to your example, just making a technically accurate and perfect tax return only gets you so far in your
Hmm.
career.
I think in accounting that we too often forget that we have to put our own mask on first, like in an airplane, right? Put our own mask on first before we help others. And our whole thing is, oh, there's clients, I got to help the clients, I got to do all this stuff. And we're giving so much of ourselves that we're not taking that time to take care of ourselves. It's part of the reason why at the center we created this whole personal resilience program, which is really for you to be that strong rock and foundation for the clients, you need to be solid yourself first. So it really is a matter of taking care of ourselves, and then we can take care of others. In fact, we can take care of more others the stronger that we are as a foundation. And that's also why a lot of what we do is based in teams, because then even if you're faltering, some of the teammates can jump in to cover or to allow you the time to rest so that you can rest, but we're still holding everybody up. So that's why I think working together in a team is so important, as well as taking care of yourself.
Absolutely. And then, I think I've had to have this conversation with multiple people as a leader, right? And like, granted, we don't really do this at High Rock, but when I was at big firms, people get promoted when they're liked. And
That's
that
right.
is a fact across the board. It sucks for those of us that are very technically acute. And also, it happens all the time. And I've had to have so many
Yeah.
conversations with people, like when I was managing them, being like, hey, like, yeah, this person got promoted before you. And it's because they have good relationships at the top and they see potential for them to be a leader and like a really good manager. Whereas, like, people don't like you, and how are you going to lead people if they don't like you, right? And
That's right.
that sucks. Like, that is the hardest feedback to give somebody. And they might be great people just doing the thing I did, just put a mask on at work and we're like, okay, I'm going to power through my work and just focus on this and not show all these other skill sets that I actually do have. And so it's a conversation about how do you highlight those skill sets? Like, how do you show that you're capable of managing people, right? Like, let's work through that. But the best way to do it is just start day one and like actually care. Like you said, like just have genuine curiosity and care about the people around you and try to show that and show up in that way. And if you do that, you'll be fine, like absolutely fine. But like, why are we here today? Why are we on a podcast together, Byron?
Oh man, the amount of collisions of stars that bring us to this moment. I mean, I it probably I actually it's funny. I was trying to think back the other day. Like my first recollection of us meeting, I think was at Engage in Vegas at Top Golf. And I think
Mm-hmm.
there's even a tweet out there. And like I kind of remember an aspect of that. You were being Liz and you were like kind of like giving me a hard time about something. And
Probably.
like I think probably a lot of people in my shoes in that moment probably would have been like, this chick's crazy, and then just moved on. And I was kind of like, this is somebody I want to hang out with. And then, there's been so many moments through the years of us, continuing to, intersect at different moments and
Mhm.
build these relationships. And also like, really even like Donnie being our triad with this podcast. I mean, I
Mhm.
think both of us fostered separate relationships with each
Mhm.
other until like kind of the moment when it all came together. We were like, hey, we all three like each other independently
Mhm.
of each other.
Yes.
So let's do something together.
Yeah. I also remember that Top Golf event being, it was an AICPA event, I believe.
I think so.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And I do tend to challenge. So I remember you were expressing strong opinions and I was asking very strong questions back to see if I could like challenge those opinions in a meaningful way. Um, but that's, I mean, that those are the community members and the people that I bond with the closest, or that are the ones that welcome the challenge and see it as a
Yeah.
like, oh, I can expand the way I think about things. And to me, when I'm challenging and I'm questioning, I'm trying to understand. Like, that is me absorbing knowledge and getting like a holistic picture of it and poking holes in logic and being like, okay, but like explain this piece of it, right?
Yeah.
Because then I learn. And that I felt in that moment like I learned a lot from you, and that I appreciated. And then, Donnie, I met, and we've always like had a good time, right? Like, we have a lot in common. I think that we share a lot of opinions, even ones that are not, I would say, popular opinions per se, um, but also challenge each other to think bigger and better. And Donnie, in the grand scheme of things, is so well connected and so incredibly like
Oh yeah.
good at managing those relationships and cultivating them and making sure he's like following up with people and catching up. And if he's in people's city, he reaches out. He's so good at that stuff. And I know you guys were talking about a podcast, and then I got a
Mhm.
random, I want to say like text message or email that was like,
That's
hey,
a, yep.
Byron and I are thinking about doing this podcast. Like, we'd love your voice involved. And I was like, I have like, the two of you are amazing and have incredible opinions and so many good things to say. I was like, can I just come for comedy? Like, if you put me in the slot for comedy, like, I feel like I can live up to those expectations. Uh,
Which of course is only a piece of your contribution to this,
Thanks.
but like but to your point, so I mean I also met Donnie through AICPA
Mhm.
involvement, And, that actually goes back to those really early days in my career when I was a staff accountant at a small firm. And that owner of that firm was involved in the profession. And this guy, Jim Metzler, came to visit our office. He was with the AICPA. At the time, I think he was leading kind of like small firm initiatives. And I had one of those like sit down moments, got to know his family, like those types of
Yeah.
things. And he has been an advocate of mine throughout my entire career. Very, very influential individual within the AICPA, and fostered that relationship that got me involved in AICPA, that got me in the same room with Donnie, that brought us together at a conference. And like I said, all the star alignment that happens because of maybe that one person that, I kind of chose to like make that connection with. And he
Hmm.
made the same connection with me and was like, this kid like seems like somebody I should bring around other people. And
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah. No, and it's incredible because it's not just like workplace, one job situation. Like the relationships I have formed through those jobs, I like most of those people I can still call and be like, hey, how are you? What's going on? Like, I see there's an opening in like your now employment. Can I come work with you? Right? Like that kind of stuff is
Oh
huge. And
yeah.
also for this type of thing or, future collaborations, you just never know where people end up and how they grow in their careers, and how like influential they end up and where you can like really like build such strong relationships that you have an insulated community. And that means that you land on your feet. To me, like having a good community, building good relationships, it means that like you never have to worry about falling off a cliff and like not landing on your feet. Like it means you're gonna land on your feet, like even if it's with a broken leg, but you're still gonna land on your feet.
It's so true. And I don't think I ever really reflected on it like that. But I mean, throughout my career, I've changed many roles, and I've never been in a state of mind where I've been like, what would I even like, that where I'd be lost if something
Hmm.
changed for me. Like
Hmm.
to your point, and I think that really is like my network of relationships is so strong
Hmm.
with so many people that I do believe like I could pick up the phone and call and they would be like, how can I help? That I've never once felt that like anxiety that I might be stuck on an island all alone and nothing to
Exactly.
do. Yeah.
And that's due to the people around you and the community that you keep, and invest in. And I think, like, if you are young and considering like what happens in your career in any industry, really, like build that community purposefully and seek those people out, invite them to lunch when you're in their city, like reach out and say, like, hey, can we grab a cup of coffee or an ice cream or something, or a drink, whatever you do on your spare time, and build those relationships because you don't know when you will need community and you don't know when you can help community either.
That's right.
And one thing I learned when I launched my firm was I get more satisfaction out of helping people than I do out of like almost anything else, right? And in like the Phoenix community, we have a relatively small tech community, and sometimes it's disjointed and sometimes it's not. And I realized when I was getting introduced to people, regardless like what level they are, where they were, if I ended the conversation with a like, hey, if you ever need anything, just
Yep.
ask. People ask. And it's
Hmm.
great. And most of the time it's easy asks. It's like, hey, like I saw this person, like, could you introduce them to me? And it's like, yeah, absolutely. Or basic things where it's like, oh, I have this like super basic accounting question. Like any chance you can answer it? It's like, yeah, easily. Like it took me 30 seconds to answer that question for you because I have this knowledge. And it means a lot to people. And I think that, if I could give one piece of advice, it would be ask that question at the end of those types of conversations. It's like, hey, what can I do to help you? If there's ever anything I can do, like reach out. And it makes a big difference, builds more lasting relationships as well.
Without a doubt. We're very similar in that. Like I'm frequently saying, like, is there anything I can do to help you? Like, is there anything I can do to help? To your point, like 90% of the time, it's usually a fairly simple ask. 10%, there might be something more complicated, and I'll be like, we should have a conversation about that. But frequently it is very easy, and you have to be like sincere about it too. Like, don't say that like trying to like
mean it. Like, that's
yeah,
worse.
like right, or just trying to like fill your book of like all the like good deeds I've done, like all the favors I've done to try to like track those. Like it needs to be like a sincere desire to help, and like it all comes back like 50, 100 times plus just by doing those types of things. And we all have different skills, different knowledge, different networks, and extending those things to others is really powerful.
For sure. Any final thoughts on the topic of building relationships?
The only last thing I would say, and this is kind of similar to what you just said, but you hear a lot of advice, I think, especially early in your career, to say no a lot. Like say no like all the time. And I actually like disagree with that advice. I actually say yes a lot, because I believe yes creates opportunities. Yes, be intentional with your yeses. Don't like overwhelm yourself and make commitments that you can't deliver on. But there's a lot of people who get asked to participate in committees or in associations or do these different things, and their immediate response is no, I'm too busy working on this tax return or doing this thing. And investing a little time in those things creates opportunities that you just cannot imagine in 15, 20 years, what it's going to come back to you in what shape and form. You just have no idea. So say yes more often, especially when it's related to building these opportunities for relationships.
I totally agree with you. And I think we could do a whole episode on boundaries and when no is appropriate and when yes is appropriate and what that actually looks like in a workplace. Probably a good topic for another time.
Yeah. Well, we'll bank that one for when Donnie's around. Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you. It's been a wonderful conversation. Care about your people, guys. Build community. And, one day you'll have amazing best friends like I do.
Hell yeah.
All right. See you later.
See y'all.
The Center for Accounting Transformation provides business professionals with a network for utilizing innovations that are ready for adoption, the training and resources necessary to apply those innovations, and an opportunity to engage the talent and community needed to further the pursuit of innovative accounting practices that drive responsible and mindful business performance. Find out more at our website, www.improvetheworld.net. And if you're interested in sharing your own transformation stories, please contact us there.